What's up, robot builders? Today we're going to talk about Rethink Robotics, and in case you haven't heard, they went out of business. Now, if you're going to talk about Rethink Robotics, you really have to start with Rodney Brooks. Rodney Brooks is a world-renowned roboticist who has done amazing amounts of work in the fields of emergent behavior and behavior-based robotics. In 1981, he received his PhD from Stanford in computer science, and in 1984, he joined the faculty of MIT. Before Rethink, he was known for being a team member of the iRobot Corporation, where he served from 1990 to 2011. He was the CTO until 2008 when he started Rethink, and in 2011 he officially left the board of iRobot. In 2008, Rethink Robotics was originally founded with Rodney Brooks and this woman, Ann Whitaker. Ann Whitaker was really the business person to Brooks's engineer. So they made a good team starting out, and they were originally able to raise about $5 million in funding. They went on to raise a total of nearly $150 million. A large component of that was from Bezos Expeditions. So the company was started in 2008 with Ann Whitaker and Rodney Brooks, but their first product wasn't released until 2012. This is Baxter. Baxter was what was termed a collaborative robot. He was a robot that was designed to work closely with people in a safe way. This was made possible because Baxter had basic safeguards inside of him that allowed him to operate safely around people. He had series elastic actuators, which were basically springs on the end of motors that allowed his arms to mechanically react to anything that they ran into. Because robots like these are actually really dangerous. If a person is near them when they are operating, they will kill the person and have no recourse about it whatsoever, or any indication that they had hurt a person. So Baxter was relatively new in that context of being a safe robot. There was also the advantages of his UI, the face that he had that showed basically intent of what the robot was going to do next, as well as very simple interfaces for training the robot to perform some task. He could be trained within a matter of minutes to perform something like a pick and a place. So in 2012, Baxter was released, but there was a problem with Baxter right from the very beginning. Baxter was termed a revolutionary robot before his usability, but the issue was because of the series elastic actuators and the overall design of the robot in general, he was a robot that, though intended for the industrial market, really wasn't an industrial robot. He didn't have the precision that was necessary, and he didn't have the long-term usability. It was a good robot, but as some people have quoted, he was a roboticist's robot. He wasn't an industrial company robot. It wasn't a manufacturing machine. And that started to cause problems very early on for Rethink when Baxter was first released, because they weren't able to gain access to the customers that they had originally targeted. They tried to address this in 2015 with the release of Sawyer. Sawyer was basically a scaled down version of Baxter that was much more precise and much more modeled for an industrial market, while still using some of the key components like the face and the series elastic actuators that Baxter used in order to make the robot safe and more usable. And it was important for them to get this product to work because in 2015 they had only sold about 1,000 robots in total, and many of those were going to universities and research institutions, not to factories, which is where Baxter was intended to go. But apparently even that wasn't enough. Sawyer wasn't enough and did not address the market well enough to make Rethink successful, because on October 3rd of 2018, Rethink Robotics announced that they were being sold to the Hahn Industrial Group. And Hahn is basically just a German automation company. They make devices for factories in order to help them with automation. So it's a very reasonable acquisition. There was no report on what the acquisition value was for, but basically Rethink would be shut down and its technology integrated into what Hahn already has. So why did Rethink fail even though they had so much money and so much talent within the company? Well, to look at this, we really need to look at Rethink's competitor, who is Danish maker Universal Robots. Universal Robots makes the UR robot arms. They are very simple collaborative robot arms that are easy to train and are very well designed for the industrial environment. That company was started in 2005, which was a full 3 years prior to when Heartland Robotics, aka Rethink, was founded by Brooks and Whitaker. So UR had this huge lead in time, and when Baxter finally came out in 2012, UR was already expanding its US presence. So they were a direct competitor right when Rethink was just starting to really get started with the real product. UR was expanding its distribution in the United States, already having a good distribution in Europe and even China. So it was a market that already had a very well-established competitor operating within it. What was really special about the UR robots was not only the fact that they were well designed on the software and firmware side, that they could integrate well with industrial processes, but the fact that they also had the same kind of capabilities as Baxter and Sawyer. Basically the safety component of if they ran into a person, they would not kill that person. They did it, however, through software, as opposed to doing it the way that Rethink did it, which was through a mechanical reaction means primarily. The UR robots use sensors in order to detect when they're running into something and react accordingly. So even though there's a potential for the software to glitch, software has become very reliable, and the fact that they weren't relying on those series elastic actuators, they had a much more precise mechanical system that could do precision work reliably, consistently, and repeatably. And that is incredibly important for industrial robots. And that was something that Baxter certainly did not have, and that Sawyer only really started to hit on later on. But at that point, it was almost too late. Rethink also had kind of a problem with customer support because many of their robots were not well set up to be easy to integrate without having to do a bunch of weird stuff with them. UR had a much better support infrastructure in place than Rethink ever really did. So even though Rethink is really touted as bringing up the idea of the collaborative robot has actually been present 3 years before the first iteration of Rethink was even created. So even though Rethink had the marketing to make collaborative robots perhaps universally and globally known, they didn't really define the category, and they obviously did not execute well enough on it, otherwise they would still be in business. So remember that. If you're ever designing a product, a robotics product especially, make sure that you define the product well and make sure that you are creating what the customers want and not what you want to create. Very few people are able to create in a vacuum and create a product immediately with the customer without any kind of input and have that product be appreciated and purchased. I mean, you can even take a look at the little arm that we created over at Slant Concepts. The little arm 2C was created from a direct bit of feedback from the community like you guys when we originally made the first little arm. And it was a phenomenally successful product because we took the feedback of the people who were actually using it in order to create a product that was easy to build, easy to program, and could be useful in the classroom and to the maker. So if you're looking for a small robot arm, go ahead and go over to littlearmrobot.com and take a look at one of these. Thanks everybody. I hope you enjoyed that quick preview of kind of what happened with Rethink and where it came from and who they were competing with. If there's other companies that you would like us to take a look at, go ahead and comment below on who you'd like there. Otherwise, please subscribe for future videos that'll be coming out here on this channel or in just like this video. Thanks everybody.